Welcome to AWS OnAir.
I told you, I'm excited about this.
We want to help you see the things that are new and launching.
We are throwing you into the deep end. Day 10. Let's do it.
Hello. It is Friday. It's 12 o'clock PST, and you know what that means. It's time for AWS On Air. Hello to everyone who's joined in and watching us today. Thank you so much for being here. Let us know where it is that you're tuning in from. My name is Fiona McCann. I am a solutions architect in the public sector of AWS. I work with nonprofit organizations, and I have the pleasure of working with Adrian. Adrian, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure thing. Hey, Fiona. Hey, everyone. Chat, let us know where you're from. My name is Adrian. I am an enterprise architect here at AWS working with partners. And much like Fiona, I'm really excited to be joining y'all today. We've got a great show, and mostly because of your feedback. So by all means, if there's things that you'd like to see, you want to hear, topics you're interested in, let us know in the chat. Let us know in the comments so we can get to it. Because Fiona, this show's a little bit different than your average Twitch stream, isn't it?
And yeah, why is that, Adrian?
Well, we tend to pivot exactly to provide you with the things that you ask for. This is a show for you, by you. And much like we intend to portray here, we bring you the topics that you want to hear. So it's very important to us that you engage with us through our survey, through the comments. That way we can go through and construct the type of content that you want to see and consume. We heavily encourage chat participation and messaging. We love to ensure that we leave you with a call to action, and we assume nothing. If you're a brand new, for example, if you're joining us on LinkedIn, and you are a brand new to tech individual, great, welcome. We love that you're here. We are going to ensure that we can make it as approachable and consumable for the new technologist, and all the way down to a grizzled, well-sculpted such as myself.
Absolutely. No matter what your expertise is, no matter how much experience you have, let us know what your thoughts are. Let us know what your questions are. I'm seeing that we have people who are tuning in from the cornfields of Illinois. We've got Philadelphia. We've got Boston. Keep coming in and letting us know where you're tuning in from. I'm tuning in right now from DC. Adrian, where are you?
I am in Austin, and apparently my fan club is upstairs, and they too have tuned in. So,
hi, Adrian's fan club. Thank you so much for being here. And the kids say hi, Dad. That's great. And we do have some other guests who are going to be coming on and talking about their areas of expertise. Maybe we can bring them in, and they can let us know where they're tuning in from.
Yeah, by all means.
I told you, I'm excited about this.
Hello there. Thank you so much for joining us today. Denton, Kirill, before we get to you, I just want to remind everybody out there, we are on Twitch, we're on LinkedIn On Air, the On Air channel, we are on YouTube events, and hello to our friends in the Great White North in Canada. Thank you so much for joining us. Denton, Kirill, let us know where you're joining us from.
I'm from Seattle. It was, as we all well known, it's very cloudy in Seattle today.
It usually is. It tends to be raining. Are we raining out there today?
Not yet, but yeah, we'll see.
You would know these days it would everlasting gob stop at least for a half hour, right?
All right, well, hey all, I'm tuning in from Houston, Texas. Surprisingly, it's not raining today. It was raining for like the last 2 days, and it's supposed to rain later, but so far it's sunny and hot.
I mean,
absolutely.
Selfishly, also in Austin, just down the way, down I-10, we've been seeing a ton of rain. I just put in some grass, so I'm just sitting here thinking I did the right thing.
Oh, I got some
absolutely
in the backyard.
We're not here to talk about grass. What are we talking about, gentlemen?
EBS. We're talking about Amazon Elastic Block Store. Super exciting feature that we launched recently. Love to sort of tell everyone about it.
All right, awesome. Before you do that, would you let us know a little bit about what you do on the day-to-day?
Yeah, so I'm one of the product managers in Elastic Block Store. So my role sort of entails just sort of talking to customers, understand sort of what they like or what they would like to see improved in AWS, specifically using EBS, and we take that back to the engineering team and see if we can make that come to life.
Awesome.
All right, and I'm a solutions architect for Amazon EBS. My core expertise is in performance engineering and scalability. So I essentially try to figure out how to make and get our customers to scale using our service in the best way possible, cost efficiently, and just in a way that makes sense.
That's awesome. Well, thank you both so much for being here. And like we mentioned, we've got people who are tuning in with all different levels of experience in the cloud. So maybe first of all, would you mind just giving a brief sentence or two? What is block storage? What is EBS? And then because we know that, EBS isn't what was created very recently, what is new in EBS that has brought you to our conversation today?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to start. So I think as we all know, we start with customers use compute, right, in AWS, whether it be EC2 instances, EKS clusters, right? It's such a core part of what they do with AWS.
Totally.
And so EBS is the persistent block storage, where customers, when they spin up an EC2 instance, there's like a boot volume associated with that. Often it has the operating system, right? So EBS is sort of the underlying storage that supports that provides the data, right, for the boot volume, if you like. And so what we're super excited to talk about today is a feature that we launched last month, specifically to help customers speed up this whole sort of workload initialization process. Because what we have heard often from customers is that they just want the compute to be up and running as quickly as possible, right?
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to be waiting around because otherwise that wait time is the time that they can't actually do anything, right? So the process that's actually involved in terms of speeding up the instance is, at least for EBS, is how quickly we can move the data from S3 onto the EBS volume. And for that, we call it volume initialization. And so the feature that we launched basically helps customers provide a more faster and consistent experience when they're sort of launching instances and sort of creating and initializing EBS volumes.
That's awesome. Okay, so it sounds like, EBS is the data that you need or the information that you need to know how to spin up your instances. We've got people on the chat who are saying, I love the cloud. I love the cloud too. So happy that you're here with us to talk about the cloud. We also have someone here who says, what is the purpose of this call? The purpose of this call in AWS OnAir is to talk to you all about new launches in AWS, bring you the experts who are making these launches happen and give you the opportunity to ask them questions face to face. So put those questions in the chat. We'll get them answered. And so you mentioned that the new piece here is this problem that you're trying to solve is the time that it takes to spin up the EC2 instances. So could you tell us a little bit about that pain point that customers were experiencing before?
Yeah, absolutely, Fiona. Exactly as you mentioned, right? So today, for example, without sort of using this feature, customers launch an instance and they really don't know how long it'll take, right? There's a bunch of factors involved in terms of how long to spin up an instance. It's your volume type, it's your instance type, bunch of networking configurations, and it just varies across the time of the day as well. So I think that's been a pain point for customers, especially if you imagine they want to spin up 100 instances at the same time. It'll be sort of fluctuations across the board. So the feature that we launched is sort of giving customers the ability to set a rate, let's say 300 megabytes per second, and they will know that 10 gigabytes of data for their boot volume will just fully initialize in 34 seconds, and we provide that sort of guarantee and consistency, always. So
this is like an SLA. That's a guarantee.
Yeah, so we call it sort of like an SLG, but you can think of it as like a guarantee or a guidance that we provide customers.
This is huge, especially as you mentioned, being able to have the warm and fuzzies if you're about to go and instantiate 1,000 nodes, or hey, this is a net new build, and we can have a fairly good amount of confidence into indicating a customer or partner, hey, this is what you're expecting behavior is going to be. But more importantly, things with like where my lizard brain is going as an old storage and data center guy is DR, instantiating from a backup, being able to do a full region failover. It's one thing to be biting your fingernails knowing, hey, did the backups work? But it's also another, okay, great, they work, but it's also going to take like a full day for this to instantiate and be ready to go. I mean, this is huge. It's a huge quality of life improvement.
Absolutely.
Kind of leads me to the next question. How was this built? Was this something that was existing that was leveraged, or did you guys have to go through and build something entirely net new?
Yeah. So I think we definitely heard customer feedback when building the feature. We know that customers have very established workflows, right, when they're spinning up computers. So we didn't want to add any new APIs. So it's basically their existing APIs, their existing launch template auto scaling groups. They'll just need to specify a parameter, and then sort of away you go. And with the feedback that we've gotten from customers, has been super positive. We've seen a bunch of customers from financial services industry, healthcare, and Kirill's even sort of worked with customers in the gaming industries as well, to sort of ramp them up on this feature.
Awesome. Can we jump to, if you may have a demo, it'd be one of those things that would be helpful to see. Because it's interesting you mentioned gaming, because that's the first place my really bad at online gaming.
Demo
Mine
dance.
immediately.
Absolutely, I've got a demo for y'all. So first of all, let me start by explaining the use case. We have customers that have build farms, that have CI/CD repos, that have large repositories that need to be cloned. Then in the gaming industry, there's also customers that have multi-terabyte repositories full of assets that they need to connect to each developer workstation. And while I can't obviously demo a multi-terabyte restore today, I chose the FreeBSD source. And the best way to show how this works is by doing a git file check on a very large repository of, let's say, an entire FreeBSD kernel. So my instance here, the one I have at the top right, is running in Ohio. I took a snapshot of it earlier, copied it to North Virginia, and let me just sign in again.
Sign back in.
Yep.
You know why you have to do that is because you didn't do the demo dance before we got started, so you didn't have the good luck of
probably
the demo dance.
That.
Yeah, you're good. And while this cooks, interesting that this is what we chose, because this is something that we objectively know is big and can take quite a bit of time. And it's also interesting you said multi-terabyte volume, because I think back to my early days in ops where I blew away a 12 terabyte volume. And in those days, restoring from LTO3, that was like a 14-day ordeal that we were down, and not being able to have to sit through that and wait for the download and hydration. That's huge.
Yep.
Such a
Absolutely.
It's
Either way,
kind of like
I'm back in. So I've got a snapshot here in North Virginia. This is a region I've never used in this account, so no volumes, no instances. And I'm going to create a new instance. Let's just call it demo 1.
I like it, creative.
Demo 1. I'm going to pick Amazon Linux, and for fun, I'm going to use the latest Graviton architecture. So let's do a m8g.works large.
Absolutely.
I got my key pair. Actually create it. Again. Network settings, all that stuff. And the key point here is that I'm going to take the snapshot from the volume that I just copied to this region.
Okay. Gonna encrypt it.
Yep.
Taking the snapshot.
It's 100 gigs in size. GP3,
I have a question in the chat. Someone says, how big can it get?
It can be as big as EBS allows you, so up to 16 terabytes with GP3, up to 64 terabytes with IO2 Block Express.
Awesome.
That's still something that breaks my brain. I'm old enough to remember when 16 terabyte was the absolute limit. You had to do some really sketchy things, and by sketchy I mean stitching together volumes either through LVM, dynamic disk, whatever, to put disks together and then have to manage that rate level. So I digress. So where are we on this one? It looks like we're pretty much there.
Yeah, so the instance launched. Here it is. Oh, okay. We gotta chmod the key.
There we go. So, all right, you're HModding. I mean, if you think about it, this is kind of like a golden ticket to predictability. I mean, we're not having to worry here whether or not we're going to have these instances spinning up pretty quickly.
Yeah, that alone, just the assurance of knowing that it's not going to take forever is genuinely a big deal. What is really interesting, I think, would be what type of feedback were you hearing from folks in the gaming industry? Because you were starting to get there before I rudely insisted on wanting to see the demo. Sorry about that. Sorry, I got a little excited. But here, this is an industry, and just by way of nature and consumption, microseconds count, nanoseconds count. So how does something like this apply in this space? Really curious about that.
Yeah, so one of the feedback we've gotten from our customer that's already using the feature, they've been able to reduce their startup time by 20 seconds. So it's basically the time from when a customer clicks on they want to play on the game to when they see the screen, right, to begin. That load time, it's been significantly reduced.
I mean, 20 seconds can change the game.
Yeah, absolutely. 20 seconds.
So 20 seconds can change a game. In a build workflow, 20 minutes can change the entire user experience.
Absolutely.
One of the customers that really influenced this, and I can't really name their name, they do large-scale video rendering, video production, and just their assets and their build workstations have multiple terabytes in size. So they had challenges with like pre-launching stuff. Let's say they refresh their workstations every day, and they have to have stuff ready for their editors ahead of time before they log in for the day. And to them, it was a change between, say, a weekly refresh cycle and a daily refresh cycle. So it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, that's a pretty huge change for an organization. We do have a poll question for everyone here who potentially could use this. How do you think Amazon EBS provision rate for volume initialization could help your organization? Let us know, and we can see what you all think about this.
All right. Well, this continues to cook. You mentioned 20 seconds to load time from when you actually fire up to being in game. Well, while I've been on the road, I take my gaming rig with me and I'll fire up. And if it's not relatively quick for me to bring up the gaming service, I kind of don't want to play. Or if I start seeing the little noodle that pop up and saying, hey, you're not going to have a good experience because of this amount of delay in between when you actually start the action.
That's not even fun.
No, it's just like, I don't even want to go bother with this. And then I get caught corner peeking, and then, it just gets slaughtered. No, I'm already bad enough. I don't need to go into it, sitting there and wondering just how bad I'm going to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And to your point, Adrian, like we've heard from our customers too, it's also that unpredictability. Like imagine if 100, 1,000 customers or players try to play at the same time, that unpredictability is something they all need to handle as well. So with this feature, they can guarantee they can have 1,000 instances, right, for each of these players and have that consistent startup time for each player as well.
Yeah. My mind immediately drifts to something like a quarterly or annual type tournament where a bunch of people have to be participating. Or even just recently, I remember some of the big online games all spinning up and just folks sitting around watching a concert that was only available in the game world. And if you get to those mass type of events where you have to instantiate rapidly, sitting there and having to wait to get in, it's probably not going to be conducive to folks leveraging the service. So I can see how this can just open a world of different possibilities without having to really go through and over-engineer everything or try to keep track of, hey, this type of instance uses this type of storage, so this sort of performance is what we're going to see. But when you actually get to come in and dictate and say, all right, everybody, this is the bare minimum of a performance that we're going to be expecting. This is about how long it's going to take to instantiate. Your P90s, P95 skew up a little bit, and you have a better understanding of what healthy looks like so that you can react appropriately in a way that makes the most sense for your organization, instead of just taking a standard and trying to get the square peg in a round hole.
Yeah, absolutely. We have people who are tuning in here, and I'm sure a lot of people here are gamers. But what are some, other use cases or other customer areas where you're seeing that this is going to be helpful?
Yeah. So we had customers as well in the financial services industry. They have like analysts that need to sort of do analysis based on models. But those models, they want to use sort of the latest version of a specific model and make sure that all the analysts are using the same version. So then that model can be super large in size. So when they distribute that model, right, to all the different analysts, they can use this feature, and they have been using this feature to make sure, hey, the startup time, as Adrian mentioned before, not only for gaming people, but also for these analysts are as quickly as possible so they can just sort of get started as fast as they can. Yeah.
Because you can't exactly just create the one copy of the model for everybody and say, go have at it. Performance is going to degrade at that point. Everybody effectively needs to have their own copy of the model to do their own modeling and research and development against, and being able to tell that group, hey, this is what we expect your SLG to be. You as an organization can start crafting SLOs around it, or even further, you can say, hey, this is the bare minimum level of service and what you're going to expect. Don't call us until you XYZ, or it takes over X minutes. And my old ops brain immediately clicks to that to say, all right, cool, less frustration, more consumption, less of an operational burden on my team.
Absolutely. So we have a couple people here for their first time. Connie and Sandeep, welcome, and thanks for being here on air for the first time. Kirill, it looks like we reached 100% here on the object check. What are we looking at now?
So we're looking at essentially the comparison between an instance that has already had the Git file system check done. That was the source in Ohio, and this is my destination in a region I've never used before with this account. And as you can see, I spun up an instance maybe 10 minutes ago. I restored a volume from the snapshot, and then I did the exact same procedure that has to file system check all the files in the repository. So that's 5 million files. It has to read 20 gigabytes of data or so. I don't know how much is in the actual FreeBSD source repo. But as you can see, with a provision rate for volume initialization, my completion time was within 1% of the original. So my snapshot copy, of course, took a few minutes. I did it ahead of time. But this is a great example of how you can not just do a disaster recovery scenario and let's say have a large production database or large production CI/CD repo restored from one region to another if there are issues. It's also a great example of how you can quickly scale out across regions, or even do some sort of a follow the sun maybe methodology in the gaming industry, where let's say all of the folks in the US are going asleep, so you spin down the servers there, you spin some up in Korea, you spin some up in Europe, and so on. And you can do this quickly without having to keep EBS volumes around, by just relying on snapshots and by relying on this this predictable rate to restore them in a quick fashion.
That's awesome. And we have people from all over the world who are here with us. We have Alper from Turkey. Thanks for joining in. And thank you both so much, Denton and Kirill, for joining us and showing us here today. We do have some documentation in the chat about how to get started with this new EBS feature. And with that, we're going to have to move on to the next segment. Thank you both so much for coming, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you all. Wow, that's pretty fantastic. We'll bring up that poll question here in a little bit again, but I think we're kind of running tight on time. So let's just jump on to our next set of guests. What do you think?
Woohoo! I think we've got to do it. Let's do it.
I told you, I'm excited about this.
Hey, Srinath, how are you?
Hello, I'm good. How are you?
Interesting. Trying to keep dry. It's been raining so much. I'm kind of wondering if I'm going to fall into a chocolate river of mud in my backyard at this point. But I digress. Srinath, let us know where you're joining us from and what we're going to be talking about today.
Sure. I'm joining from Atlanta, Georgia. It's very pleasant, nice, and sunny here today, which is awesome. And I'm one of the product managers on the Amazon FSx for Lustre team. Been part of the FSx family for close to 5 years now as an SA and as a product manager, and really excited to talk to you folks about a new storage class that we launched a couple of weeks ago.
That is awesome. Thank you so much for being here with us today. We're excited to get to dive into this. Like we mentioned a little bit earlier, we've got people here who have all different levels of technical expertise and from all over the world. It looks like we have someone who just let us know they're here from Nairobi, Kenya. Thank you so much for tuning in. And everyone else who's visiting us from around the world, continue commenting and letting us know where you're from. But just because we do have this varying levels of expertise, let's start with a baseline. Would you mind just letting us know what is Amazon FSx? And then also maybe what is Amazon FSx for Lustre?
Sure. Amazon FSx is a family of, fully managed file systems that we offer, making it really easy for customers to, use high performance file storage for general purpose file applications as well as, high performance workloads. And Amazon FSx for Lustre is a fully managed service that provides high performance, cost effective, and scalable storage that is powered by Lustre, which is the world's most popular, high performance file system. And our customers use Lustre for workloads where speed matters and when they need to, concurrently access and share the data simultaneously from all these compute instances for workloads such as generative AI, machine learning model training, and high performance computing workloads such as genomics analysis, financial risk modeling, weather forecasting, etc. across, several different industry verticals.
Okay. What's Gen AI? No one's talking about that these days. Never heard of it.
Yeah, and it's the thing today, right? And these generative AI applications crunch so much data,
Absolutely.
they process so much data, and they need a high performance storage that can, really keep the GPUs busy and allow them to, do all the model training as fast as possible.
Absolutely. So file storage itself, Amazon FSx, in what sort of use cases do you see customers choosing to use file storage?
Sure. Customers use FSx for Windows file service to migrate, Windows-based applications or Windows, file systems. We have Amazon FSx for OnTap which is a fully managed service that allows customers to migrate, NetApp offerings from on-premises to our fully managed, NetApp in the cloud service. Then we have FSx for Lustre and FSx for OpenZFS, which are built on open source file systems, and the FSx for OpenZFS is our fully managed NAS offering that allows customers to migrate general purpose NAS workloads to the cloud. And with FSx for Lustre, we provide the fully managed service that allows them to migrate really high performance workloads for generative AI and HPC use cases.
Okay, awesome. So we're talking file storage. We're talking FSx for Lustre for high performance and AI use cases. That's the background there. Now, what has just recently been announced that has brought you to us?
Yeah. So if before I jump there, I just want to share a little bit more context around some of the challenges that
Absolutely.
and why we launched this feature, right? So Lustre is used by customers to power these high performance workloads because Lustre file systems can scale to really high levels of throughput, driving terabytes per second and millions of IOPS, right? And if you have tried setting up a high performance file system on premises, it takes several days and even months just procure hardware.
No thanks.
For production use, right? Or even if you're setting up a DIY file system in the cloud, you still need to manage the storage, optimize it to get really good performance, which is time consuming. And with FSx for Lustre, we make it really easy for customers where they can spin up a high performance file system within minutes, and they can migrate their on-premises file storage without making any application changes or re-architecting their workloads. Okay. And
to see if we could jump to what this looks like in practice. I mentioned previously I'm an old storage nerd. You got me thinking and tingling. You said a couple of things. It's actually a good segue to the poll question that we have for this. I know this answer. I'm not sure if you know, but what is the minimum storage capacity one should provision in order to get 50 gigabytes, capital B, of throughput? We'd love to hear from you, chat, what you think about this, and more or less the way that you're starting to engage with file storage. So Srinath, can we pull up your demo and talk through some of the questions that we may have as we're starting to walk through it?
Sure.
Okay,
Here we are. All right, so we're in the console. We're looking at Amazon FSx. Let's get going.
Yeah. Before I jump there, I want to quickly walk through the new storage class, right? So one of the challenges customers told us that they're running into is they have a mix of hot and cold data,
Okay.
and our customers are using our existing storage class, which is our SSD storage class, to accelerate the machine learning and HPC workloads. And the SSD storage class has been working really well for them for use cases where they need all SSD performance and consistent low latency across all the data. But they have other use cases where they have a mix of hot and cold data, and they don't need all SSD performance for colder portions of the data. Right? And customers are running, file storage on premises that is built on, HDD or hybrid SSD and HDD media, and they're really struggling to keep up with the growing storage growth, as well as change in their workload patterns.
Right.
What that leads to is creates a lot of challenges for them because they need to manage the storage capacity, leads to procurement delays, and oftentimes in order to keep up with the workload demands, they need to do costly over provisioning. So FSx for Lustre Intelligent Tiering is the solution that we launched a couple of weeks back to address these challenges. And it automatically manages the hot and cold data between each storage tiers. So you don't need to worry about managing the data lifecycle anymore. And it delivers almost up to 34% better price performance compared to on-premises HDD based file storage, and up to 70% better price performance compared to other cloud offerings that are out there.
I love it. And Srinath, I gotta say, I'm a visual learner. I would love to see a demo. Could you show us what this looks like in the console?
Sure. All right, let's jump into the
Let's do
console
it.
real quick.
Alrighty.
I like that tree, though.
That is
Right.
quite handsome.
All right, here we are.
In the console, when you go to create a file system and select FSx for Lustre here.
Perfect.
Oh, I don't see the next screen. Sorry about that.
Okay.
All right, and let me give a name here.
AWS OnAir. Beautiful.
Yeah. And you can see you can choose between intelligent storage class, right? And when you select an intelligent tiering storage class, you can optionally enable EFA. EFA is our, SRD networking, which offers low latency and high performance. So that is supported and allows you to, enable GPU direct storage for GPU-based workloads. So now, because the storage is fully elastic within the intelligent tiering, customers no longer need to provision any capacity upfront. The storage will automatically scale up and down as data is added and deleted
Beautiful.
to the file system. And you can virtually scale to petabytes of data without having to provision all that capacity upfront. So as you can see, I can just select the performance that I need for my file system. We support increments of 4 gigabytes and all the way up to 2 terabytes, which is a lot of throughput, massive amount of throughput, right?
What kind of use cases would need that amount of throughput?
Mostly high performance workloads, generative AI, training, things like weather forecasting, seismic imaging type workloads. They crunch a lot of data, petabyte size data sets, and they drive a lot of high throughput.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I just select the throughput capacity that I need, and without any upfront storage capacity provisioning, I'm getting all the performance that I need for my file system. Right?
Perfect. And I'm wondering in the chat if we have anyone who is running any workloads that need this type of throughput capacity. Let us know what you're working on and what you might want to use this for.
Yeah, I would love to talk and nerd out and learn from you what you're doing that requires that, because in all my years, I think that the highest I've ever seen was like 200 gig of sustained throughput, but even that was pushing it for, I guess I would say circa 2008. But yeah, I can't even comprehend 2 terabyte.
Pretty gigantic.
Yeah, I was talking to a customer last week, and they have a workload that needs, to drive 1.5 terabytes of throughput, which is amazing. Yeah. So, and the big differentiator is, you can you're starting with virtually zero capacity here, and
Right.
you can store, hundreds of petabytes of data, and just select, the performance level that you need for your file system.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a big differentiator. So once
on
you
the
select
fly?
your
Static.
Yeah. Once you select the throughput capacity for your file system, you have the option to, select the metadata of IOPS. You get the flexibility to choose that. And we also support an optional SSD-based read cache. So with an optional SSD-based read cache, if you have workloads that are, that need SSD level performance for your frequently accessed data and low latencies of all SSD performance, then you can, select an SSD cache. We provide customers the choice to, configure it proportional to the throughput capacity, so they don't need to worry about, what is the size of the cache they need based on the throughput capacity. We automatically provision the cache for them, right? Or they can, select the custom mode, specify the cache size they need, or choose to, disable the cache altogether.
Try to count the figures there. What is it? 1.3 petabyte?
So this is 128 terabytes. So every the minimum size is 32 GB and the maximum size is 128 terabyte for every 4 gigabytes of throughput. So if you are creating increments of 4 gigabytes, you can have a really massive cache.
Yeah, and that was my follow-up question: is if a customer to go through and want to manage this, what level of flexibility? But it sounds like even on the back end, regardless of the method they choose for the read cache, you're going to be able to grow that proportionally for every 4 gigabytes of throughput that you're throwing at this thing.
Yeah.
Which, in and of itself, just for those that are unfamiliar with it, every time in the olden days, I don't have my yell at the cloud hat with me today, so we'll pretend I have one. That was a ticket to somebody like me to go and physically rack, stack, wire, configure, label, punch, plumb, rezone, present, and do something with that storage every time that something like this changed. But for all of those operations to happen on the back end, transparent to you, without you having to worry anything other than updating a value, this is a game changer.
Pretty nice.
Fantastic.
Yep. Yeah, and once after you select the read cache, you can enable compression, which gives you additional cost savings. Select the networking for your file system, and then just submit create, right? So it will create the file system. So in the interest of time, I'm going to just use an existing file system here that I've created.
Beautiful.
All right, so as you can see, this is a 4 gigabytes throughput capacity that I've selected. I can, change the throughput capacity, scale it higher later if needed, or scale all the way up to, 2 terabytes. Same with metadata IOPS. I can update that, adjust the size of the read cache as well, right? And I've enabled compression on this file system, and you can see, metrics here. The interesting thing is here I've created a 2 terabyte data set, and you can see it's giving me the total storage used after compression. So the 2 terabyte data set has been compressed to roughly about 500 GB, which means customers are only paying for 500 GB. They get the benefit of the elastic storage, where they are only paying for data they store, and also with compression they are reducing the storage costs further. So in this case, they are seeing about 75% storage cost savings here, right? And I have a workload that is running right now as well. So this is a 4 gigabytes file system, right? And I've been it contains of 3 tiers, right? Frequent access, infrequent access, and archive instant access tier. And data will automatically be tiered between those 3 tiers. You get the same level of performance irrespective of the tier. When you're writing data, we optimize those writes by aggregating blocks and writing it into larger block chunks. And when you're reading the data, if you're reading it from the cache, you get sub-millisecond latencies. But if you're reading it from the intelligent tier storage, you get tens of millisecond latencies. And we also optimize reads by prefetching the data. So here you can see, even though this is a 4 gigabytes file system, right? And I'm running a sequential read workload here from a subset of clients, and I'm driving almost close to 11 gigabytes of throughput.
This is pretty awesome. So, we have some people tuned in here. It looks like we have Sora from India. Thanks for being here. And Celestina, who says she's here for the first time. And is there a cloud community for a beginner like her? You have found the cloud community. We would love to be a cloud community for a beginner like you. And maybe let's explain for even someone who's a beginner, what are we looking at here when we see these types of workloads? Am I right in assuming that we're looking at kind of bursty workloads, and that's the benefit here of having that automatic size changing?
Yeah, and in terms of size changing, the main reason is you don't need to worry about storage capacity, managing storage capacity anymore. You don't need to, make all that upfront capital investment and provision all that capacity, right? Storage will automatically grow as you are adding data. So less overhead of, managing storage.
Totally.
Customers can focus on, their business priorities and their applications instead of spending time trying to manage the data and the storage.
Awesome. This is fantastic, Srinath. The inner storage nerd in me is jumping up and down. I got a couple of customers I'm trying to help figure out scaling throughput predictably for them. They're a fairly cost-conscious organization. But no, this is going to be fantastic to point them to. But thank you so much for spending time with us on that demo. Is there anything that you'd like to leave as a bit of a call to action to our friends in the chat, and potentially any tips and tricks for them to go ahead and get started?
Yeah, I would encourage people to, spin up a file system and play with it. We are really excited about this feature because this is the first only elastic Lustre file storage that is out there. And because it starts at, half a cent for the lowest tier,
I think I heard that.
Get up to 96% lower cost compared to other managed storage offerings out there. So really excited about giving customers the option to optimize costs while giving them the high levels of performance that they need for these use cases, which have a mix of hot and cold data.
That's awesome. And Kwesi says, thanks for doing this today. So I think we're going to pass that right along to you, Srinath. Thank you so much for doing this today. Thank you for being here with us and having this conversation with everyone who's tuned in and listening. And we hope to see you again on the show sometime soon.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Adrian, I know you mentioned you're a storage nerd and you mentioned that you were excited about that segment. How are you feeling after that conversation?
I'm feeling pretty fantastic because, I had a running gag with a good buddy of mine. Don't know if he's watching, but his name is Joe Hayovsky.
Hey, Joe, over here.
Hey, Joe, or hey, Bubba, as we know him. So Bubba and I used to spend a lot of our time doing a lot of storage rack and stacks and installing things anytime customers were going and growing. We got pretty fast and good at it, but the rate of installing and cabling and doing all this stuff, at the human scale, it doesn't scale. So being able to take that away and then make it more intuitive and the flexibility, because typically once you add storage, it's really hard to take it away. Once you add performance and additional spindles to spread out the workload and get better resiliency and performance and throughput and all that, it's very tough to take it away. But being able to ebb and flow, it helps the beginners get going. It helps the intermediate user free up more of their time, and the advanced user set, forget, and go solve the additional hard problems. Yeah. This is, probably one of the most exciting launches I've seen for me personally. It's not Gen AI related in a very, very long time.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty exciting. You kind of sound like a kid in a chocolate factory talking about this. So I'm happy to see that you're so happy about it. I know we have people in the chat who are excited about that 0.5 of a cent cost for the low storage option. And, we also have someone in the chat who's calling out the survey. I believe that's you, Todd. If that's you, hello. Todd is one step ahead of us and letting you all know that there is a survey that we would love for you to fill out. Please fill out this survey. We want comments from you, but we also want your feedback on what you want to see next time. So let us know what you like about the show, what you'd love to see improved about the show, what kind of content you want us to be bringing to you. And if you fill out that survey, we will give you $20 in AWS credits if you're one of the first, I believe, 20 people. Is that right, Adrian?
Yeah, I do believe it's the first 20 folks to respond to that. Consider it a golden ticket for you to come in and start running around. By all means, we encourage you to experiment, have fun, and kind of treat it like an everlasting jawbreaker. You just sit it there, and eventually you might get tired of the flavor, but it doesn't mean you can't try another one.
Absolutely. That's pretty sweet if you ask me. We have Greta in the chat who's saying hello. Hello to you, Greta. Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you, Greta, for being here. And Adrian, I think it might be time to head on to our next segment. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it is time. Let's get to it.
Let's do it. Woohoo!
Hello. How's it going?
Hi. Good. Thank you. How are you doing?
Very, very good. First time on air, so glad to be with you both.
Welcome.
Wow. Well, we're very excited to have you here on air with us. And Judith, is it your first time on air as well?
This is my second time.
Well, we're excited to have you back, and we obviously didn't scare you away the first time. All right. Well, would you both mind introducing yourselves to everyone that we have here that is tuned in and listening to the show?
For sure. My name is Ibrahim. I'm a software engineer with the AWS Solutions Organization, and specifically I support a portfolio called the Generative AI Solutions Portfolio. So sorry, Adrian, not storage. We are the AI over here.
All right,
He's leaving. See you, Adrian. I'll handle this one. Judith, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Judith Joseph. I'm a solutions architect with the AWS Solutions Org, and I'm very excited to be here and excited to talk about what we are going to present to you today.
For sure. So if you don't mind, I'd like to just jump right into it.
Yeah, please.
I love it. Let's go.
We can walk and talk.
Yeah, very quickly, just a brief introduction of what the solutions library in the organization is. So customers who are looking to solve some sort of problem out there, there's so many great building blocks on AWS, but it can be difficult to sometimes actually know how to apply that to solve your problem.
Where to get started.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's what our solutions organization is all about. And so the library provides a whole collection of different products out there, from guidances, technical reference architectures, and sort of one of our flagship products of an AWS solution. So that's a fully fledged, sort of ready to go software product that customers can take, deploy in their accounts, really accelerate their journey on AWS.
I really like the way that you called out solution, because the idea is that you take these ready-bit parts to go further and go faster than you potentially could by, kind of kidding yourself together, some sort of solution that you find.
And it's got all the things to let you get started, right? From technical reference architectures, implementation guides. The source code is all open source, so it's available for you to go and extend it, look to see what all the internals are, and really get jumping.
That's awesome. It's like the great glass elevator. It's taking you from the bottom all the way to the top right away.
Yeah. And Fiona, I know you're quite a visual person, so if you don't mind,
I am.
Maybe show
Let's
you.
do it. You're making me so happy. Absolutely. Let's jump right in.
Before we jump into a demo. So here's an example of the landing page for the Generative AI application builder. As I mentioned, I'm on the portfolio that supports Generative AI applications, and we look to see, what are the patterns, what are the technologies, and how can we help accelerate customers in implementing those.
So you're pretty busy these days, I would assume.
You know what? It's very fun. Like, we get to play with so many cool technologies and figuring out how customers can apply these to help solve all their different problems. So it's been a fantastic journey, and one
That's
that
awesome.
I think Judith shares, that it's been quite a joy to be in.
Yeah.
Very fun.
But if you look at this landing page, you can see an implementation guide's ready for you. It gives you an overview of the solution, some of the benefits that we see that customers find in using it. And then, like I mentioned, architecture diagrams are there. You can go into the source code, view the GitHub repository, all these different things are there. But one of the biggest pieces is for those who just want to dive right in, get started and get things going, there's this launch in AWS console. That'll take you right into your console account, deploy the solution, and get you ready to go in a second.
Wow. It deploys it so there's a CloudFormation template associated to this launch button, and it's kicking it off?
Exactly. It'll get it into your account. And once you go through that deployment process, this is what you end up with. So this is what we call the deployment dashboard of the solution. And our primary goal, sort of the customer problem that we're really trying to solve, is we found two primary kind of categories of customer challenges. The first is, well, how is a generative AI application any different from a traditional application? Right? And like some of the answers are, well, it's not too different. All the things you would do for a normal application, you still got to do for generative AI application. So they wanted a way to offload some of that so that they can really focus on how generative AI can be applied to the particular business value they're trying to generate.
Absolutely. It's letting them focus on their differentiators, and we take care of the,
Exactly.
I love
exactly,
and it
right?
looks like we have some people in the chat. As Bobcat007 says, I've used a few of those solutions and they really help to jumpstart and get going. That is awesome. Siobhan says, this looks sick. Thank you so much. And well, actually not thank you to me, but thank you to our wonderful guests who are showing you. And we also have a LinkedIn user who says there's so many Willy Wonka references. That's really crazy. I wouldn't know what that's about.
Me neither, but I do appreciate a good old-timey movie reference. So like Grandpa Joe, I'll get out of bed and do a little bit of a dance.
Jag, awesome.
Kenai.
Here's why I'd say the dance, Ibrahim. You hit on something that is so hard to impress on customers as well as internal stakeholders. You've got to find a business problem to go through and solve for. Chatbots are great.
Exactly.
You can't tie that to something that somebody in revenue or finance or executive leadership has as an initiative that they want to get solved. It can get very hard not only to get momentum, but backing. Even if it's the coolest thing in the world, it doesn't really matter unless you can solve a business problem with it.
Exactly. And that actually transitions us into the second thing that customers look to solve is the space is moving so quickly, so quickly. And so how can we enable them to keep up to date with all of the latest patterns as they start to come out? So that's that other piece of the way you build your applications will change based on the nuances of generative AI technologies. So, latency is such a big concern with these models. Well, how do you improve that customer experience to start streaming tokens, say, back as quickly as possible in a secure and scalable manner? So those are really the things we try to kind of, impress on customers, impress on the viewers, and sort of some of the, value add of an AWS solution. But if you see my screen right here, we've got that deployment dashboard. And this is the primary console that you can come in and build various use cases. So this might be for your own personal experimentation, but it could also be kind of in a production environment where maybe I'm the core administrator who's building one for you, Fiona, who leads our finance department, you, Adrian, who leads our HR department. And so I've got that flexibility to kind of isolate these use cases so that customers go, but let me just show you what I mean. So
you got to do it. Let's see.
If you go into this deploy, you'll see that we today support two different types. Judith was on air before and showcased kind of the initial version of the solution. We've got a couple of changes since then, so I'll focus more on a couple of those, and maybe the viewers, we can link back to show them the previous version. But two types of use cases that we look to support customers in building, two types of applications. The first is what we call a text use case. You could think of this as, there's the word RAG gets thrown around. You've got some sort of proprietary information, proprietary data, some kind of static workflow that you really want to, get that generative AI, that large language model to support you with. And so this is where you'd connect your knowledge base, maybe configure your prompts, select the model that you want, and which was kind of an early need of customers to see which works best. And then there's the second workflow that we have, which is one of the newer ones that we just launched last year at reInvent, which is our agentic use case. And this takes the Bedrock agent component made by the Bedrock team and allows you to sort of extract that out of the console and wrap all of those kind of production application pieces that you need to really scale this and to deploy this into your account. So that might be things like user management and authentication, surfacing this in front with an API, building a UI around it. So we give you all these components to really help you get started as quickly as possible.
I mean, it sounds like you've really thought of the customer here, and it's resonating with the viewers that we have in the chat. We have one. Anofdra says, "Oh wow," with 4 W's at the end. Tier 4 says, "UI is looking great too." Thanks, Todd. And JibJabo6 says, "Color me intrigued." It sounds like they're intrigued and wanting to learn more. So maybe you should keep showing us a little bit more.
So again, I think we'll jump into some of the more seeing is believing type thing. But just before jumping into that, if you see here on the left panel, you see there's really like this 5-stage process of building this text use case here. And so that goes into some of the general pieces, what are the kind of features you want to connect into? Do you want to support user feedback? This is one of those new features that we've enabled. Giving a description, a name, do you want a UI, do you not, right? And all these different pieces to enable you to move forward, right? Step number 2 in the wizard, figure out your network configuration. Again, this is that balance between quick, rapid experimentation, but then at the same time, how can you productionize these elements, right? And network configuration is a big focus area for our customers. And then the next piece is selecting your model. Right?
The fun part.
You want to give customers that diverse range of all those different Bedrock models. And so go in, get started, figure out what works for you.
Can we use some models on here?
Say that again, sorry?
Can we use Nova models? Oh, look at that. I want Nova Pro. Choose Nova Pro.
You got it. And again, it really makes this process quite simple. You're seeing there's maybe 2 or 3 clicks, but I've got that flexibility to put more information as needed. Do I want sort of to ground these with background knowledge? I've got the configuration options to do all of this.
Okay.
And the final piece before we show you what's going on, you've got your prompt template. Make it as complex, as simple as you like. And the solution will really help to kind of push you along to get you started as quickly as possible.
Is this where I would lay down my guardrails and say, and it set the specific confines of, hey, these are the parameters where I want you to respond. I want you to respond as a cranky upstate New Yorker that is blah, blah, blah. I'm thinking movies in my head, and one specific one where you've been forced to travel to the South to represent one of your family relatives in a court of law. Those of us at home that are playing that are movie buffs, please throw it to the comments so you know which movie I'm talking about. It's a classic. It's a cornerstone of American cinema. But I digress.
But that's exactly it. It's set your roles, set your guardrails. Exactly. Set your roles, set your guardrails, the tone, customer branding, all of that. But since you mentioned that keyword guardrails, there also is the formal guardrails that you can go in and connect to really ground your application. But let's have a look at an example of the agentic case. So in this case, I went into Bedrock and I created, you'll see once you deploy this out of the solution, we give you a link with an application here for you. So with this Bedrock agent, sort of a parks and recreation service, if you can imagine 4 primary actions. I can get the list of programs backed by an API. I can make a new reservation, get my reservations, and then I'd say even I can cancel a reservation. So, if I look here, I've got a whole bunch of programs. Pick one for me, Fiona. What do you think?
I want senior yoga in the East York Community Center. And I do see that someone says my microphone is too loud. I'm really sorry. There's nothing I can do about it right now. So you're just going to have to listen to my voice. But on a more positive note, we do have another person who said that, wow, it looks so easy to get started. They could definitely see themselves using this. So I do love to hear that.
So here, let's see what programs are available. So I'd like to connect certain new programs. What is available? And you mentioned that you're interested in this senior yoga one.
Yeah, I want to know about senior yoga for 60 plus year olds.
Listen, seniors make great company, so I'm sure they won't mind. So you know what, I'll say, you know what, when is the yoga? And again, in the background, this agent is going in, figuring out what your intent is and surfacing that and passing that off onto the API that can service that actual request. Get the sessions, 12 spots, 15 spots, any preference on the time, 10 a.m., both of them. We'll
Judith, what's your preference?
10 a.m.
So we'll take the Thursday session and it'll go and make that reservation. And now I can go in and say, what are my reservations?
Look at that.
And then you'll see I had a pre-filled program of Learn to Swim, and we've now got this yoga one. And so what might this look like kind of, in, a sort of environment, right? If you can imagine sort of a city who provides a park and recreation service, you'd be able to apply this either in the background, right? One of the assets we provide when we build this use case, and not only this chat interface, because you may not want to leverage everything through chat. You also get these APIs that you can integrate into your wider application. So here's an example kind of pre-filled before I pass things over to Judith is enroll my 12-year-old son and just sort of look at the set of programs and determine, well, you know what? I think this basketball program is probably best for your son. You could see here, there's no spots available. So when I say sign me up, it kind of navigates through that workflow and says, maybe not so good. And all of this is kind of in quite a natural interface. And you can imagine this, you do this over a contact center, say, right? If you gave in a call and did all of that. So there's really quite a bit of power here, but you saw how simple that was by building your experiences either in the Bedrock console or building it through our user interface, and then exposing that out in this application with all of those components you need either to experiment, iterate, but then eventually also give that off to customers.
That's awesome. It definitely seems very easy for customers to use. And I know you said you're going to pass it off to Judith. Judith, what are you going to be showing us?
All yours.
Yeah. So thank you, Ibrahim. My demo is another agentic use case. May not be as interesting as Ibrahim.
Hey, don't sell yourself short. I think we're gonna love it.
So this is actually a real world use case that we took for production. Are you guys able to see my screen?
Yes, we are.
Okay. So we created this agent for a particular customer, and the Bedrock agent that we used here acts as an intelligent interface between business users and structured enterprise data. So we don't need the middleman, like technical users, to write SQL queries and query get the data. So what we have here is, the Bedrock agent here, how many customers do I have? The Bedrock agent is capable of dynamically converting it to a SQL syntax, executing the command against the database, and retrieving precise results. So you see the results here, and I just wanted to show you all what the SQL syntax for that query was. So I put in that query there, and here is what the agent gave me. How many orders do I have? So I have 16 orders. And who's my most loyal customer? This is one of my favorite questions to ask the agent. So it automatically interpreted that my most loyal customer is probably one that has placed the maximum number of orders. So there you go. It told me that, and it even gave the reasoning, right? He placed the most orders, three orders, and could be your most loyal customer at this point.
So this is it kind of builds trust in the system, similar to like citations on a text-based knowledge base. I like that this is showing you exactly what the SQL query is that it used to pull, so that if there was some misinterpretation and a user notices that that query isn't what they were looking for, they understand why they've gotten the answer that they did.
Exactly. You can check the correctness of the query.
Totally.
And the main differentiator for this agent that I'm using with Gap, the Gen AI builder, is I spin up the agent, I do my work, connected to Gap. Now I have a secure user interface. All the security, enterprise security part that Gap brings, I'm able to use that. So, it's extensibility, auditability, everything that comes with Gap, I'm able to use with the Bedrock agents that I create. This solution is very important for self-serve analytics. I know we are reaching out of time, so I want to show one more use case. This is the text use case, right? So I have an agent that is running in the background. It is monitoring all the machines, collecting error, anomaly data, pulling responses from customers, on-site operators about that data, pulling knowledge from the knowledge base and data source. But it also creates a unique ID, that which you see here. So I'm using the text use case of Gap here, and I said, hey, what can you tell me about this particular unique ID? And then from the knowledge base, all the work that the agent has done and summarized and put in the S3 bucket, for example, the Gap is able to use the RAG, pull the knowledge from the data source, send it along with the prompt to the large language model, and it shows me the information here. Hey, this unique ID is associated with an error about this aircon device, and here are the troubleshooting steps. I have the source documents. So this is good, right? You can check how authentic that information is. And there's a feedback feature, thumbs up and thumbs down, and you can actually give the feedback, especially.
I like that.
Cool, right? Like, oh, I don't like this answer because it didn't answer what I asked for. So you can write this, and all this gets stored in S3, which you can again use for additional insights when you are deploying the solution, either for your own customers or for your end customers. That's all I have.
That's awesome. So you've made it easy for customers to. Oh, someone actually just asked a question. Someone said, how beginner friendly is this service to someone who's new to Gen AI? I was just about to say, you've made it easy to build an application for someone who's new to Gen AI. Siobhan says, I'm just starting off with the basic concepts, let alone implementation. Siobhan, I gotta say, it kind of sounds like you are their target customer, but Ibrahim and Judith, you might have something more targeted to say to viewers like this.
That's exactly it, right? Again, it's, you don't necessarily need to be a cloud expert. You don't necessarily need to be an application expert. If you are those things, the way that you can scale this is really, amplified.
Right.
But at the base, it really allows you to just focus on a few clicks, try out different models, right?
Totally.
Try out different prompts. These are all kind of really accessible things that allow you to get started with the solution quickly and, off to the races and just see where you can go. So there's so much more that the team has planned, and I'd really impart on viewers. The last thing would be just, there's so many other great solutions and great portfolios across the entire library. So anytime really you have a problem, a solution, something you're trying to figure out, check out the library.
There's so many candies in the chocolate factory, and this is your golden ticket. So thank you both so much for giving everyone here that golden ticket. We're so excited to have gotten to see this, to have had you on the show. Judith, this is your second time. Hoping to have you here for a third. Ibrahim, hoping you'll come back for a second, and hope you both have a great weekend.
Thank you. You too. Take care.
Thanks, y'all.
Adrian, what are your thoughts on this session? I know it's not storage, but I hope that you at least got something sweet and delicious out of that.
I got tons and tons out of that. It's a good starting point for folks that are either nascent in the cloud journey or working with folks that are in the cloud journey. I mean, I personally, I do a ton of mentoring in my community with students that say, hey, this is pretty cool. Where do I go to get started? I'm pointing them to this. I'm pointing them to this and our additional programs that we're doing to build better communities in our schools, as well as early collegiate education, and helping better equip the next generation of builders to not have it be so scary as they come into it. This is pretty awesome. What do you think?
Yeah, I feel the same way. I think that, the term Gen AI and building with Gen AI can sometimes be scary because people don't even know where to get started. And, they fear that it might take away their ability to build. But what we're seeing here is that it's actually going to really give people the tools that they need to have outcomes that never would have been possible before, and that anyone can do that because we have options like this for even the people that have no experience. This is a great way for you to get started. And Adrian, I think it's awesome that you're working with kids in your community to teach them exactly that. We do have a couple people who've said hello. I just want to give a shout out to Elisangela, hello, and Elaine says hello, everybody. We have Francisco from Monterrey, Mexico. Hello to you. Hello to Seydu. Hello to everyone who is joining in and joining us for this session. We're so excited to have you here. We're excited to have your questions as we bring in our next session. And I believe we're going to be seeing a couple of questions on Repost. Am I right about that, Adrian?
I believe you are. I'm ready to bring them on if you are.
I think we should. Let's do it.
Do it.
All right. Happy Friday. Thank you, Fiona and Adrian, for that intro. My name is Anup Shivadas. I'm a Principal Solutions Architect here at AWS, and I'm joining from Northern Virginia, absolutely very close to Washington, D.C.
Hey, everybody. I'm Stephen Heverin. I'm a senior TAM. I'm based out of the city of brotherly love, Philadelphia, where Reinforce is happening next week. We're the host of the regular weekly live stream Repost Live, where we dive deep into our user-submitted questions, provide technical solutions to our Repost community. Head over to repost.aws and get signed up using your AWS account ID or your builder ID.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, Repost is a great platform. I highly encourage you to sign up and get started really quickly. And if you're just joining us on the show today, let us know your feedback by taking the survey. And by doing that, you can earn like $20 credit, which is pretty good enough to spin up some EBS instances and test out the new features that we announced. So yeah, take the survey and you will get a $20 credit.
And I think, Anup, you've hinted at we're continuing to cover some of the topics today, and I think you're first up with some a question from one of our Repost users on EBS initialization.
Yeah,
and it's from user Cipher, and their initialization is taking a horribly long time.
Yeah.
So what is it? How can you help them out here with this, Anup?
Absolutely. Yeah, this is a great question. And by the way, as we launch these new features, right? So this is all about the new feature that we just launched, which is provision rate for volume initialization. So this particular question, it's a little old. It's 3 years old, but we thought this is a great one to kind of talk about the benefit of the feature. And as you can see here, the user is talking about restoring a 4 terabyte volume from a snapshot, and it's taking a lot of time. So this is a pretty common problem customers will face. So the feature we just heard, and I was very pumped to hear about the feature as well, which is around provisioned rate for volume initialization. I know it's a mouthful, but it's a great feature. So this feature is the exact one which will solve problems like this. If you are restoring a volume from a snapshot and it's taking like many days or even hours for that matter, this feature is going to speed that whole process for you really seamlessly. Imagine this when you're doing DR situations as well. So the beauty of this new feature, which is the provision rate for volume initialization, is you can specify predictable initialization rate. So between, let's say, for example, 100 to 300 megabytes, you can define that during the volume creation. And this will ensure that the snapshot data is downloaded at the rate, and it's actually written to the volume at the rate you specify, whether it's 300 megabytes or 100 megabytes. That rate is kind of guaranteed for you, which is pretty awesome. So this gives you predictable and faster initialization. So that's the beauty of this particular feature.
Yeah, I like this feature because I've had to restore some pretty big volumes on premise in a previous life.
Yeah.
And I've got customers there like Veruca Salt saying, I want my data now.
Yeah.
So, this is a great feature. I'm really excited for this. I know I could have used this in my past life.
Oh yeah, I can just go back to my past life as well, exactly like you're saying, Stephen. I was a database person for a long time, working a lot on SQL Server related workloads, and this comes into play all the time, right? Whenever I create snapshots and restore it to a different instance and whatnot, this is something which is gorgeous. I'm pretty excited about what the EBS team came up with. And the other aspect I want to mention is there is no need for manual block reads, right? So people in the past used to do manual block reads. So this feature essentially eliminates the need for manual scripts or utilities for that matter, which will actually read every block to trigger an initialization. So that's not needed anymore, which is pretty awesome here. And the beauty again, and I love to say beauty because this feature is amazing from my mind, it works at scale. So the feature is specifically useful when you are initializing multiple volumes concurrently, right? Things like that. So again, disaster recovery, massive scale is where this feature will come into really effect. And I think we have one more article which is interesting to call out here. And again, this is a little old, 2 years old, and it's all talking about how do I optimize the performance of my EBS provisioned volumes, right? So this particular feature is going to be there in the recommendation as well. We'll update the article, but I want to call out that whenever you look at all these optimization aspects of EBS, think about this feature. So this feature is going to be key, provision rate for volume initialization. So I want to call out that as well, Stephen. So I think great feature from an EBS side. I guess you're probably touching on a great feature that's coming on the.
I am, but I do want to say, want to highlight to the AR San Miguel on calling out the Seether as well. I like that tie-in. I like this feature for sure, and it's we provide that flexibility and it being able, but you still kind of have to focus and talk about optimization and still kind of have to know some stuff about your data. So yeah, I think let's jump over the article that I've got here. If we bring up my screen, is we've got this article here from one of our peers, a senior TAM here at AWS, and she really dives deep into the configuration and what you can do to optimize the performance of FSx, right? And we talked about that feature earlier and that tiering and stuff like that, which really adds to this capability. So we'll touch on a couple of things here with the time and stuff that we've got. But I want to kind of highlight a couple of the things here with file system configuration, right? With this, you still have to kind of go through some of these things. She's got 6 of them laid out here. In file, having a higher stripe count, right? That increases that IO by spreading data across more storage targets, right? Those large files that can, help with throughput for stuff like, we talked about machine learning and generative AI use cases, but there's also like a use case in the genomics space when you've got to handle and process lots of genomics data. And the stripe size and stuff, that kind of controls how the size of each data chunk is written to being written to a single object storage target, right? So it's, you want to look at that. You want to understand what data am I working with this here? Drop a note in chat. Let us know what your use cases are for FSx, how you're using it today in your environments and your workloads. I think the second one that, she's got here is the one that really ties into the new feature that we launched here with the storage capacity and performance, right? Before we looked at configuring, do I need SSD? Do I need, hard disk for my performance? With this, it's not an either or anymore, right? You can configure it so that I can have the high performance when I need it, right? And scaling down when I don't need it. Going back to that genomic situation, right? I worked at a company where, we had to process and analyze very quickly the genetic data of cows, of dairy cows, right? For farmers, they would take a swab of the cow and, get it, because they're processing all that milk to get it to the chocolate factory for Mr. Wonka. And they need to know the genetic, traits of that cow. So they knew how to breed those cows and stuff. But we had to process this huge data set of genomic data, get the results back and the analysis back to the customers pretty quickly so they could continue working and breeding their cows and stuff. So I think that's one of the, really kind of great use cases here with this. Moving on, just a couple more things here. You've got the data distribution. Here, another example for this in this use case is in media and entertainment, right? You've got to do post-production. You now got teams that are distributed all over the place. So, and you need to have that high throughput to access those large files and not be able to impact everybody, while they're doing their work. And that's a great place where you can leverage that caching and stuff like that. So some really good features there with that. And then a couple of the last ones here, like, we I don't think we touched on it earlier today, but I think we've got, you've got network optimization and that kind of stuff. You still need to have that, low latency need, right? And the best path for that is always the shortest path to get there and to be able to put your data as close to the compute as you need. So you want to be able to place them in the same VPC and minimize that latency, right? That still holds true here in the cloud. You still want to be able to do those things. I had a networking engineer that I used to work with. His favorite phrase was, "You can't change the speed of light."
Say that all the time.
So I say he said it all the time as well. He's very fond of that one. So, and finally, it's a good thing that you talk about here, obviously monitoring, right? You want to make sure you're still looking at those metrics. Your workloads and how things function can change over time. So you want to be able to do that monitoring and tuning. You still need to have those CloudWatch metrics in place and still be looking at that, setting up those alarms. And then finally, as a schizophrenic web developer says, the speed of light is the limiting factor. And I remember when dial-up used to be the limiting factor, plugging in that modem to get speed and what we can do today. So, and then always, I think one of the last things here is, that I think that she calls out really well is that data lifecycle management, right? Do I still need that data anymore? Right? Do I need that data there? Can I move it off? Right? And now with that kind of variableness, I can move it down to that colder storage where I might need to let it sit there for a while because I don't need it right away, and I can move it back when I need to be able to do that kind of stuff. So I think we're getting down towards the end of it with some of these things. And I got to say, the Gen AI use case and the builder library that we discussed earlier, I kind of wonder if Mr. Wonka would be able to take advantage of that to build a Gen AI application to get his next everlasting gobstopper or other great idea out there.
I love what they showed in the Gen AI application builder. I think they were calling it as Gab, right? I think I took a lot of takeaways from that as well. Pretty amazing. I think if you're just getting started with building applications with generative AI tools, RAG and agents and whatnot, I think that's a great place to get started. I was mind blown with that solution as well, which is pretty cool. Yeah,
and there's really no limit, and it's super easy to get started with that. Just start trying your ideas out and seeing what works. So as I mentioned quickly, we want our audience know what we have coming up next week. Typically, it's part of the segment where we'll tell you to tune in next Tuesday for the next exciting episode of AWS Repost Live. However, next Tuesday is going to be a little different. As we, along with our friends from here at the AWS OnAir team, are going to come to you live right here in my own backyard of Philadelphia for AWS Reinforce this year. So, what do you think there, Anup?
Yeah, that's awesome. I will miss, unfortunately, Reinforce because I have to travel to Seattle to meet with a customer and then talk about a lot of generative AI. But I'll be cheering for you all on the side for sure. Probably I'll be in a plane, but I'll be still cheering for you all. But it's one of my favorite events for sure. Security is job zero, right? That's what
absolutely.
So Reinforce is all about that. I'm excited for you all there.
And we'll share the link in chat so you can get started for our next article in Repost, where we'll be providing some helpful links to get you caught up on Reinforce and all the announcements that will happen there. Tell us what you're most excited about. And this year, Jay and myself will be there on site. If you see one of us there at the AWS OnAir booth or around some of the Lightning theaters for talks, be sure to say hi, and we'll give you a nifty sticker, which could be your golden ticket to learn some more about AWS.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, great event. Meet Jay and Steven. It'll be a fun time. In the meantime, if you have more questions on the EBS initialization feature we launched and the FSx intelligent tier, or even the generative AI solution builder or application builder for that matter, let us know from Repost. Head over to repost.aws. You can sign up using your builder ID or AWS account ID, and you can get started. Great platform, ask questions, read articles, a lot of great content over there. So highly recommend signing up as well. Until next time, I guess, Steven, happy building.
Happy building, and it's on to the news.
The Eagle has landed.
Jeff Barr, you look different today.
Different today, right? That's a good one, Fiona.
It is. But come on, let's let Jeff enjoy his downtime. But that Jasmine, I'll say she is one good egg. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for being here, Jasmine.
Of course, it has been a wonderful show. Oh my gosh, you took us through so many good segments today, and
there's been a lot of good content.
Fire.
Chat is on fire. We have 2 more hellos that I didn't get to shout out yet. 404B not found, hilarious username. Thank you for being here, and hello back to you. And Gulam also says hi. Hello to you, Gulam. And Jasmine, hello to you. So you're here to talk to us about news this week.
I do. I have the news this week. I'm not Jeff Barr, but I'm filling in for Jeff, like Adrian said, getting his rest. But yeah, let's see if we can take folks over to a world of pure imagination.
Ooh, let's do it.
Alrighty.
So what do we have up first, Jasmine?
First up, we have AWS Reinforce. We've heard about it the entire show. We are going to be there, right? So
we're going to be there.
Fiona, you're going to be there. Adrian, are you going? Are we leaving you here? Oh, we're leaving you home.
Leaving me behind. I'm still recovering from, the whole hand thing, the whole carpal tunnel surgery, which was quite lovely, by the way. Hand definitely feels much better. Yeah, still got to be doing like the physical therapy stuff, but I digress. Please go on.
Well, no conference for you.
We'll be on the live stream with all of our viewers who are going to join us next week. Right?
Absolutely, he will. He'll be tuning in the whole time.
Watching, I'll be lurking. I'll be cheesing. I'll be throwing out puns nonstop.
Absolutely. And Jasmine, what are we? Oh, awesome. You pulled it up. I was going to say, what should people expect from Reinforce?
Yeah. So cloud innovation requires world-class security. And that's why AWS designed our cloud to be the most secure. So it's going to be 3 days of interactive learning led by our security specialists who make the AWS services that you use every day. So they'll get practical skills and hear strategies that will help keep the business secure. You'll hear a keynote. I'm very excited for the keynote on Tuesday. I always love that to see what our leaders have to say, but you'll get to hear from the AWS CSO, and we'll do, all of these sessions and throughout. And what I really love is that we're bringing you with AWS on air with us. So what you'll do if you're not there on site with us, we'll drop the link here in the chat where you can register to join us. And we'll be online all day. We have so many fun things jam-packed into the show. I've been super excited to prep for this one. Security is, it's so important. It's foundational for all of us. Security, as we say at AWS, is what?
Top priority.
Or job zero.
Or job zero.
That's the one I'm looking for, job zero. So, hey, we hope that you'll join us next week. It is June 16th through the 18th in Philadelphia. You can't be with us. Watch us online on the 17th on Tuesday.
We'll make you feel like you're there with us. You'll be talking with us. You'll be sending questions. We'll pass those questions right along to the people who are launching the newest security services.
Yep. And we will have those service teams with us on the desk, answering questions about what it is that they've been building for you, what they're launching, all of the hot announcements from the keynote, and showing you how you can use it and get more involved in security on AWS with your own products.
That's amazing. Jasmine, how many Reinforces have you been to?
I think this is my third Reinforce. Yeah, I did Anaheim. Last year was Philadelphia, and then we're repeating Philadelphia again.
Amazing. This will be my second. I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, nice. Hopefully we have some folks in the chat who are some repeat reinforcers. And we'll get to see you there again. If not, join us for the very first time.
Absolutely. And hey, we have a comment. It says, what is AWS OnAir and why? And I think maybe, Jasmine, do you want to take this, let them know, and then also why they should join us at Reinforce?
Yeah, absolutely. So AWS On Air is our flagship live streaming program where we bring you the news every single week about what's new. We give you first looks at our products of what's happening, what's coming out at AWS. And we're doing it live stream for a live audience with you. We're answering your questions. We're bringing the products and the services team there so that we can give you that look. We're giving demos and we're showing you how to get started using these services in your own environment. And sometimes we have fun things like surveys and credits so that you can go try it out for the very first time on your own. So what we're really doing is giving you a look, behind the curtain of what we're doing at AWS, how we're building it. And so we have our live streams that are going on all throughout the week. We have tons of shows, but we would just love for you to watch. So hit the subscribe button where you are, like our channels, and make sure you come back for more.
Absolutely, Nasir. I hope that answered your question. Definitely join us. And we have another hello from Saloni. So hello right back to you.
Hello. All right. So let's see where our fizzy lifting drinks take us next in the news.
Where are we headed?
So I think this next one is for, the folks who are looking to think about what AWS looks like for you. So we have a Twitch special event coming up from Start to Certified with AWS. And so this is if you have, maybe never seen AWS before, you want to look at it a little bit deeper. You got some time until this. So something to think about how you want to do your certification journey. But this is going to be on August 14th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Pacific. And we've got all of your heavy hitters coming to that show. You're going to see Aaron Hunter, Trevin Spires, Darko Massaros, and Cobus Bernard, along with some special guests. They'll be covering topics through certification, like which one to choose, how to best prepare, registration tips, and guidance on our newest certification, the AI Practitioner and ML Engineer Associate. So you don't want to miss that if you are looking to learn more about AWS certifications.
Absolutely. I know we have a lot of people in the chat here who have varying levels of expertise. When we were talking about that new Gen AI application builder, we had a couple people mention that they're new to AI and they want to learn where to get started. It sounds like this event, Start to Certified, could be a great option for them. I know we have some new certifications in the world of ML. Hopefully that event might be able to help them figure out how to get started and get going.
Yeah.
What
And then
else do you have cooking for us?
What was that?
What else do you have cooking for us?
Oh, I have something else. Oh, someone in the chat said, is AWS certification free? So we do have paid offerings for our certifications. A lot of the times you will see that we run special events to help you prepare for it. And so I would say, see what you get out of that. Come to our preparation events on Twitch that we have, or shows, sign up, learn more about AWS, and see what you might find. But generally speaking, our certifications are associated with a fee, and the breakdown is on that training and certification pages on that specific certification of how much each of those are going to go for.
Absolutely. All right. You said you had something else for us, Jasmine. What is it?
No, this one for me is the Scrumdiddlyumptious bar.
Ooh.
This is the final one, but something really interesting that I found is, back to that world of pure imagination. Could you imagine yourself as an AWS AI scientist, an AWS business intelligence engineer, or an AWS AI engineer? That's what you can explore with our new AWS AI and ML Scholars Program. So, as the demand is surging for experts in AI, AWS is creating opportunities for 50,000 learners worldwide through this AWS AI ML Scholars Program. And so we want to reach folks who have had, limited access to learn AI ML education and give them professional development opportunities. So through August 1st, eligible participants can apply for hands-on AWS training, tools, and clear pathways to careers in technology. So like I said, when I named it first, those three things, those roles that maybe you can imagine yourself as an AI scientist, a business intelligence engineer, or an AI engineer, this program actually goes off into three separate tracks that you can look at and learn that way, decide which one is best for you. And then, you can learn, you get to look at Amazon Q, you're getting to look at AWS Party Rock and different AI services there. So we hope that you will apply and learn more.
Yeah, when I saw this one, when you mentioned this and that you were going to want to talk about it, I looked it up and shot it over to some of the schools that I work with and say, hey, y'all should at least go look at this. And if this is something you want to be pointing your curious learners, the ones that have gone out and got, I actually know quite a few kids under the age of 18 that have multiple certifications, and many of them hold more than I do, which is also kind of a little on the embarrassing side, but for them, they're setting themselves up for success. They're walking into college not only with some credits, but multiple industry de facto certifications that help prepare them for the workforce as they're going forward. So yeah, if you or someone is interested in something like this, by all means, jump on it. And even if you're not sure that you're going to want to do this in the future, there's no harm in consuming the content of the education.
Exactly.
Absolutely. It's a great way to get learning.
What you want to be when you grow up today. You just need to start doing some learning and maybe put it all together later. But we hope that it's with AWS, AI, and ML.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I think that brings us to the end of the show. And we have a comment from Samuel who says, it was a great time with you guys. Samuel, it was a great time with you and with everyone else who tuned in and joined us today. Thank you so much for being here. We loved getting to hear where you're tuning in from. We loved getting your questions. We hope that you'll fill out that survey to let us know your thoughts on what you'd like to see in the future. And Adrian, Jasmine, do y'all have any final notes to the audience before we go?
Jasmine, please.
Oh, I'm just so glad that all of our new friends decided to be here with us. I repeat, friends, I'm going to go hang out in my chocolate river for the weekend.
Delicious.
You're going to do that, aren't you? Okay, I got you. No, yeah, have a good weekend, y'all. Be curious, go out and learn. The best way to learn is to get messy, make mistakes. If say you're in bed and you're consuming cabbage soup,
and you spill some over you, there's no better way for you to actually go out and learn and get better at things by going out and consuming and using services. So have fun with that. Have a good weekend, and hopefully we get to see you next time.
Happy building. See y'all later.
Thanks. Bye.